The restaurant buzzed with soft laughter, clinking glasses, and the low hum of live piano in the corner. It was the kind of place where deals were made and appearances mattered more than the food. At a table near the window, 3 young executives leaned in, their smiles sharp and mischievous. They whispered as they glanced toward the entrance, snickering under their breath. They had done something cruel, something they found hilarious, setting up their colleague, Sarah, on a blind date with the janitor from their office. The restaurant shimmered with soft golden light, polished floors, and the faint hum of live jazz weaving through the air. It was the kind of place where wealthy patrons exchanged quiet words over wine and where every detail, from the folded napkins to the scent of imported roses, spoke of prestige. At a corner table near the glass wall, 3 coworkers from Whitmore Industries leaned close, stifling their laughter behind sleek menus. Tonight wasn't just dinner, it was a setup. A cruel one. Sarah, their colleague, had been venting for weeks about being single. All the decent men are taken, she'd sigh at work, and no one ever introduces me to anyone serious. Her coworkers, Amy, Lucas, and Brent, had grown tired of her complaints. Instead of helping, they decided to amuse themselves. They arranged a blind date for her, pretending they'd found the perfect gentleman. What Sarah didn't know was that the man waiting to meet her wasn't a banker, or a lawyer, or an executive. He was Daniel, the janitor. The quiet man who swept the hallways after hours and wore faded uniforms. Sarah arrived 10 minutes early, wearing a soft blue dress and the hopeful smile of someone expecting romance. She'd spent hours getting ready, convinced this could be something special. When Daniel walked through the entrance, his heart beat hard against his chest. He wasn't used to places like this. The chandeliers cast warm light across white tablecloths, and everyone looked so composed, so sure of their place. He smoothed the front of his shirt, the only one he owned that wasn't stained with bleach, and scanned the room for his date. When their eyes met, Sarah froze. The man standing before her wasn't what she imagined. He looked clean, polite, maybe even kind, but she saw the nervousness in his eyes, the way he shifted his weight like someone who didn't belong. "Sarah?" he asked quietly, his smile unsure. "Yes," she replied, forcing a polite expression. "Please, sit." Behind them, Amy nearly choked on her drink, covering her mouth to stifle a giggle. Brent leaned closer, whispering something that made Lucas snort with laughter. They watched every awkward moment unfold, savoring the discomfort like it was entertainment. Daniel, unaware of the cruelty behind it all, tried his best. He asked about her favorite books, her hobbies, her family. Sarah answered, her words short and careful, her eyes darting toward the nearby table where her friends pretended not to stare. Embarrassment flushed through her, she could feel the joke tightening around her like a noose. Still, there was something steady in Daniel's eyes, a quiet dignity in the way he listened. He spoke about caring for his younger brother, about the art he painted at night to ease his mind. There was no arrogance in his voice, just honesty. Then, the sound of leather shoes striking marble made the air change. Heads turned. Mr. Whitmore, the CEO of their company, walked in with 2 assistants. Conversations hushed as he scanned the room, and when his eyes landed on Daniel, his face broke into a knowing smile. "Daniel," he called warmly, striding over. "Didn't expect to see you here, son." The laughter behind Sarah died in an instant. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the entire restaurant seemed to freeze. The CEO's voice, calm, authoritative, and warm, carried effortlessly across the elegant room. Heads turned toward their table, curious whispers rippling through the air like the rustle of silk. Amy's glass halted midway to her lips, Brent's smirk faltered, and Lucas lowered his fork with a clatter. None of them had ever seen Mr. Whitmore, the man who signed their paychecks, the one everyone spoke to with practiced reverence, greet anyone that way, especially not Daniel, the janitor they all ignored. Daniel rose from his seat, startled but composed, the faintest trace of a smile touching his lips. "Mr. Whitmore," he said softly, his tone laced with respect but free of fear. The CEO clasped his shoulder with a firm, familiar hand, the kind you only offer to someone you truly value. "I've been trying to reach you, Mr. Whitmore continued, a glint of warmth in his eyes. "Your designs, they're extraordinary. I can't stop thinking about them. You'll be at the presentation next week, yes?" A murmur spread across the nearby tables. Designs, presentation. Sarah blinked rapidly, trying to process what she was hearing. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't part of the joke. She had assumed Daniel was just a janitor, someone invisible in the background, but the way Mr. Whitmore was speaking, it was clear Daniel wasn't what he seemed. Daniel nodded humbly. Yes, sir, I'll be there. Good, the CEO said with a satisfied nod. I meant what I said, talent like yours deserves recognition. I'll see you Monday. With that, Mr. Whitmore gave Sarah a polite nod, glanced briefly at the stunned trio behind her, and walked away, his assistants following like shadows. For a moment, silence reigned. The jazz band faltered mid-note, the hum of conversation flickered and died. Every sound in the restaurant seemed swallowed by disbelief. Sarah sat frozen, her mind spinning. Amy stared at her plate. Brent and Lucas exchanged nervous glances, their confidence evaporating like mist under sunlight. Daniel slowly sat back down, his eyes gentle but guarded now, reading every face around the table. I guess that was unexpected, he murmured, a soft smile forming despite the tension. Sarah's cheeks burned. I didn't know, she whispered, shame creeping into her voice. I know, Daniel said simply, not unkindly. Most people don't ask. The word stung, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. She thought about all the times she'd passed him in the hallways, offering a distracted nod, never really seeing him. She thought about how she had judged him, his clothes, his job, the way he seemed too quiet for their fast-paced world. Now, the picture was changing, and the weight of her assumptions pressed heavy against her chest. At the next table, Amy cleared her throat and muttered, "We didn't know either." Her voice trembled, stripped of its earlier mockery. Daniel turned to them calmly. "It's okay," he said softly. "You don't have to know everything about someone to treat them with respect." The words hung in the air, cutting deeper than any reprimand could. For the first time all evening, Sarah and her friends sat in silence, not out of pride or amusement, but reflection. And as Daniel picked up his glass of water, his hand steady, Sarah realized she wasn't sitting across from a janitor. She was sitting across from a man far richer in spirit than anyone at that table had ever been.